Hi guys, today I am going to use the new SNACCIDENT stamp set from Kellie Stamps. I'm going to combine both the digital and the clear stamps today. So the first thing I did was printed out a full page photo for my Life Crafted album, and I did add a digital stamp to that. So I'm going to quickly show you how I did that in Photoshop. So I've opened my photo in Photoshop and I just want to resize this to the size of a Life Crafted page. Now I'm not putting mine in a page protector, I'm going to use a full page photo. So the size I want to crop it to is 5 by 8 1/4. Just type in those dimensions and then I can drag out my box. And I think I'll put it, it's not quite going to fit, so I'm just going to trim it there. And then I just want to adjust the levels just a little bit to make it a little bit brighter. And then before I go ahead and print this, I want to add a digital stamp. So I'm going to grab my digital stamps and find the one that I want to use. Oh, there it is, I couldn't see it. Circle 8 this. And I am going to use the PNG file, so I'm just going to drag this onto my canvas. You can see it's very small, I want it much larger, so I'm going to hold down the shift key and drag out the little boxes here. I'm just going to place this so it's sort of at the top right hand corner and hit return. Now this stamp is black, it's always going to be black. I want to change the color, so I am going to rasterize the layer and then just double click it, which will bring up my layer style palette, and then I can go ahead and click color overlay and choose any color I want. You can see as you change your colors around, it changes the color of the stamp. All I want to do is make it white. Totally boring, I know, but that's what I want it to be. I want it to be white rather than black. So I actually think I'm going to use Command T, the transform tool, and just make it just even slightly larger than that. And then I can go ahead and print my photo. And now I'm going to get on with the sort of clear stamp portion of this page. I'm going to use the Nom 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 stamp, and I've already cut out just a piece of white cardstock. It's the same size as my photo. I've punched the holes in it already. And then I went and grabbed a whole selection of different coloured inks. These are all Catherine Pooler mini inks, just to match colours from my main photo there. And now I'm going to do a little bit of repeat stamping. So this is a bit of a fail, spoiler alert. I just tried a different sort of idea here, which was that I grabbed out all of my colours, opened them all up, and I'm just randomly repeat stamping the different colours. So I'm going to do the real basic sort of repeat stamp, just one on top of the other, but I am sort of randomly doing the different colours. And it's at this point I decided I didn't really like it. I didn't like how it looked. So I decided instead that I would do just some stripes of the same color. So I am going to use all of those same inks that I pulled out. I'm going to use the exact same repeat stamping technique, except that I'm not randomly doing the different colors. I'm going to do one row of one color, then clean off my stamp and start again with a different color. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here because it is pretty boring watching this repeat stamping. I have just used kind of a rainbow order as I'm going up the page here, and I'm going to end up finishing on a darker pink, which I hadn't originally pulled out, but I didn't measure how many colors I would need to go up the page because I originally was going to do it randomly, so I did have to add that extra color. Now, spoiler alert, if you were watching that, you'll have realized that I stamped the whole thing round the wrong way. The holes on my piece of paper are on the wrong side, so I did have to repeat all of that stamping again. The advantage being this time I put the pink at the bottom, just I think it balances out that pink of the wafer on my ice cream sundae there on the other side. So unfortunate that I had to repeat all that stamping, but fortunate in that I got a bit more practice at working out where I wanted all of these colors to be. Now for my second little photo, which is Lil eating the ice cream here, I did go and die cut that into a circle because I've got a bit of a plan for this photo. So I die cut that into, I think it's about a 3.5 inch circle. I just used a thin metal die, and before I carry on, I decided I would do a little bit of stamping on this photo too. I have already stuck it down onto my background, but I'm just going to really carefully stamp a couple of these noms. This is a different nom, it's not the same stamp, it's like a kind of scripty font, and I've just stamped those in the Brilliance Moonlight White ink. Now what I want to do is create somewhere to put some journaling on this page, and this was my idea for the circle. So I've gone ahead and I've die cut out the same size circle from white cardstock and then just run that through my typewriter. So that's my journaling. And what I want to do is kind of make a flip up here for my photo, so the journaling will cover the photo until you spin the little circle around. And the mechanism I'm going to use for spinning the journaling around is just a little brad. So I pulled out my stash of brads. I don't have many, but I've got more than I'll ever use probably, so this is the page I'm going to use them all up. I decided that while I had them all out, I might as well use them a little bit like sprinkles, so that's what I'm going to do on my page. I'm just really carefully poking a pair of scissors through both pieces of paper, so I've got a card, a photo, and then my card at the back. It took a little while. There are probably way better tools to use to do this. I didn't have them handy to me, so I carried on with the scissors and I made a hole big enough that I could stick the brad through it, just so that it was like reasonably loose, and gave me enough to spin my little journaling around there. So the brads, I had chosen a couple of different ones, but mostly I wanted to pick out colors that were similar to some of those colors that I've already stamped in. I'm going to add just a couple of little extra ones, again like I said, like sprinkles, but it becomes the embellishments to my page really. If you didn't have brads to use, you could just use enamel darts, but I really like the idea of having those circles repeated and all the different colors, just sort of echoing the sprinkles on the ice cream sundae on the right hand side. Now I'm loving how this looks, but I had an idea to maybe do kind of an insert page for this spread, and I'm going to show you how I do that over in my Silhouette Studio software. Okay, so I've just started a new document in Silhouette Studio, and I've got this page, this Life Crafted album page on here. This was just one of the divider cut files that I had, so I keep this as a sort of base when I'm doing things like this. Now the first thing I want to do is drop on my digital stamp, and I'm going to use the Nom 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 PNG, so I'm just going to drag that onto the document here, and I'm going to use the trace tool to create a cut file essentially. So drag the select trace area over the digital stamp, and you'll see it's all highlighted in yellow. That's what's going to trace. You shouldn't really have to do anything else to it except hit trace. Now I can click on this black part, which is the stamp, and delete that, and that leaves me with my cut file. But of course I'm not actually wanting to cut this cut file, I want to use my foil quill with it. I'm just going to drag this up here so it's on my Life Crafted size page. I'm going to resize that so it's sort of the size that I want, maybe a bit smaller. I think it's going to go about there. So if I zoom in on here, if I went ahead, and I'm going to delete this when I go to send it to my Silhouette. I don't need to foil the outline of the page as well. This is just so you and I can see where it is for now. If I sent my Nom 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 onto the foil quill right now, all it would do is foil around the outside of the cut file essentially. So you're just going to get an outline of the stamp, which in some cases will look beautiful, and that's all you need to do. For this one here though, I really want it to be filled in, or as certainly as filled in as I can get it using the foil quill. To do that, I am going to use the sketch panel here. So I want to select my cut file, and then there's a whole variety of fillers in here. So you can use sort of diagonal lines, or you can make them whatever angle you want. These are horizontal. You can try concentric circles. So obviously this is going to add 2 extra lines inside the cut file. So at this scale it wouldn't really do a lot, but if we go to say 30, you can see it adds a lot more lines, and the more lines you add, the more filled in it's going to look. Obviously, the more lines you have, the longer it's going to take. It's going to be a really long cut file to do because it has to trace every single one of those lines. For this cut file, I think what I'm going to do is use the horizontal lines, and I don't think I'm going to do them quite. I think maybe something like this. If I zoom in a little bit more, you can see how many lines there are. It's still going to take a considerable while, but I should get a reasonably solid look to it. You will still be able to see lines in it. It is definitely not going to be solid like using, say, the mink sort of foil. If you ran this through a printer, I don't have printable acetate on me, so this is my next best option, and this is a good option for using the foil quill if that's what you've got. So the only thing I need to do now is I'm going to place this so it's up in the top left hand corner of my mat. I can delete the actual page. I'm just left with my cut file that I'm going to send to my foil quill. These are the settings that I'm going to use, and I just need to turn my Cameo on, load up my sheet, and send it through the machine. So here you can see how this little insert turned out after it had finished foil quilling. Like I said, you can still kind of see those little lines, but it's definitely more solid than just doing the outline, and I really love how that turned out. I'm glad I gave it a go. The only thing I want to do to this page now is just add a tiny little bit more sort of embellishment, and I'm going to do that by adding a couple more of these little brads. Like I said, I've got plenty to use. They're serving no purpose here other than embellishment. But one of the things I do love about these life crafted albums is I've got no hesitation to use bulky little embellishments like this because I know it's not going to be an issue in these albums. So once I've added those extra little brads, that's my page all done. I will leave a link to the Kellie Stamps store down below in the description box, and don't forget to check out the discount code there. You can get 10% off your order. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye guys!